In this video, I want to show you how to replace your thermostat, which is located right here underneath this aluminum housing. Your radiator petcock is located on the driver's side of the vehicle, right next to the lower radiator hose. You need a deep 13mm socket to loosen it up. Break it free, it's plastic, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Once you loosen it up enough, it should start draining. Make sure you have a collection bucket to catch all the fluid. And once you're done, make sure you close it back up and make it nice and snug. I want to start by removing this upper cover here with a T30 Torx bit. Two bolts come out, and then it has a couple tabs here at the front and one at the back. You can lift it up, set it aside, and that gives us direct access to this rear bolt for the thermostat right here. With the T40, go ahead and take both of those bolts out. They're pretty tight. Be careful not to break them. Make sure the spring washers that are on the bolts come with them. Don't lose those. And with that aside, have a collection bucket ready because coolant is most likely going to come out, especially if you haven't fully drained your system yet. Break this free. My system is completely empty, so not much coolant will be in here. As you can see, this part is going to have to be cleaned very well. Here's your thermostat with its gasket. Remove it, set it aside. I'm going to take a rag, wipe the surface here, and then with a razor blade, I'm going to go ahead and scrape off all of this debris that has accumulated on here. Take a rag and just wipe this off. There you go. That's nice and clean now, nice and flat. You don't want any corrosion on here or rough raised areas. I put my rag in here. I'm going to do my best to try and clean this surface up as well. All right, now take your new thermostat with the new gasket, put the gasket on. It has a groove that it needs to slide in. Just like this. Make sure it's seated all the way around. Perfect. It has this little valve here that needs to be facing at the highest point. This is slanted backwards slightly, so I'm going to put it just like this. That's at the highest point, and this actually helps bleeding. It helps the air escape before the thermostat even opens. That's what that's for. Double check that this surface is ready to go. Slide this down. Let's put in the two bolts. Tighten this to 17 Newton meters, which is about 12.5 foot-pounds. Now we have to put this cover back. It has 3 tabs that have to slide into the rest of this cover. And press it down, make sure it snaps in at the front and at the back. Now let's put the 2 mounting bolts in, snug these up. And now let's fill the engine with coolant. Refer to your owner's manual for what type of coolant to use. And then once this is full and has stopped bubbling by itself, we'll go through the full bleeding procedure. All right, now in the vehicle, I'm going to turn the key to the on position. And before I start the car, in order to properly bleed the system, I want the heat on high on both sides. That way the heater core can circulate everything. AC off, I don't want that, and I'm going to make it blow on the dash vents. That way I can feel the heat and feel when it starts getting nice and warm. As for the blower, I'm going to set it to medium, maybe a little bit lower than that, because I don't want to suck the heat out of the engine. I just want to feel it blow heat at me when the time comes. And I'm going to watch the temperature gauge to make sure it doesn't climb above the halfway mark. I want to make sure it's not overheating. And now, let's go ahead and start the engine. Make sure everything runs smooth, which it is. It's running very smooth, normal, no check engine lights. So I'm just going to let this thing run and warm up. And I'm also going to pay attention to the coolant level and make sure it's not bubbling over as it's heating up. It's been about 15 minutes. The car has been warmed up for the past 5 or so minutes. I'm going to let it run for another 5. And to help it out, you can give it some revs here and there. You know, hold it at like 2,500 RPM for a minute or so and then let go and let it cool down. Keep checking the coolant level in the meantime to make sure you're not running low. I have very hot air coming through the vents. I found out later that that's defrost and this is vents. Anyway, so at this point I know that the coolant has circulated through. My thermostat has opened. You can feel the upper radiator hose And if it's hot, that'll indicate that the thermostat opened. And as you can see, it's not overheating. If it was overheating, you'd want to shut it off. It's most likely an air bubble, so let it cool down, start all over again, top off the cooling system if necessary, let it warm up again. Most likely, you're not going to get an air bubble, but you never know when it can happen. So at this point, it's been long enough with the car running at full operating temperature. I'm going to go ahead and shut it off, let it cool down. And once it has completely cooled down, I'm going to check the level of this coolant tank once again. You can see right there it says max. It's right where that line is, that basically the two halves of the tank were melted together. And that's your maximum fill line. So top it off to there, and then of course you'd want to cap it off and take it for a road test.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.